Welcome to the Cybersecurity Matters podcast. Your hosts today are me, Harry Baldwin, and Matt Rose, two members of the Nuco Cyber team, and we're delighted to be joined today by the co-founder and CEO of Red Sentry, Valentina Flores. Valentina began her career as a cybercrime detective on a federal task force, investigating cyber criminals and gaining first-hand insight into how real-world attackers operate. Today, she is the co-founder and CEO of Red Sentry, a penetration testing and vulnerability management company that helps organizations uncover and address security weaknesses before attackers can exploit them. Alongside leading the business, she's a regular speaker on hacker psychology, security culture, and why organizations need to focus on understanding risk and not just buying more security tools. Valentina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We're looking forward to covering lots of things. As we said at the beginning, there's lots of interesting topics around your career and industry thoughts and lots of things for us to cover. So to start us off, we always love to start with the same first question, and that is, how did you first get into the cybersecurity industry?
It's always the first question, and it's the question I have the least answer for. I feel like I just stumbled in here. I was a cybercrime detective, but I don't know, cybercrime I always felt like was one of those areas of crime where it was this puzzle that hadn't been unlocked, or it was a puzzle that had like 100 pieces really, but then we keep adding in thousands of other pieces and making it more complicated. And what I always loved in law enforcement was being able to kind of break down these complex things, and cybercrime really gives me a way to do that. So when I started in cybersecurity in the private sector, it was because there wasn't this translation between these insanely genius technical people and people like balancing 1,000 plates. Like, listen, I'm just trying to get through our audit. And so that's kind of where I found my niche, is trying to translate between those two people. And that's still kind of how Red Sentry operates today. And that's, yeah, how I got here, I guess. But just a big puzzle that I
Yeah.
love solving. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get into investigating cybercrime specifically? Was it something that was, when you were growing up, was it something you were really interested in? Was it something you studied? Was it someone you met? How did you kind of get there from that perspective?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that. It was more like a moment in time. It was really interesting. I was a detective on SVU for years. And specifically, I did human trafficking, sex crimes against kids, and a lot of really like crimes that I loved investigating. I was making such an impact. It felt so good. And when I got pregnant for the first time, I wasn't able to go out on the street as much. And so cybercrime, I actually started in child pornography investigations. And I don't say that much because it makes people uncomfortable, but it was just because I couldn't go out on the street. So it was like, okay, how can I take my investigative skills and use it in this other thing that I have no business? I had no experience in that, and I had no business chasing cyber criminals. And it was then that I realized like how far behind we were. Like, obviously robberies, burglaries, we got a basic ID on them. We're chasing them, they're running. But cybercrime, it was this huge blind spot, and I immediately just fell in love with that puzzle.
Yeah, it's
What
fantastic. Go on,
what
Matt.
was it? Sorry, Valentina, Harry. What was it that surprised you moving into that space? Was your vision of cybercrime similar to what you actually learned about how they operate?
Yeah, I mean, if I told you to picture a hacker right now, this is probably like what you'd picture, right? This is like what people
Yeah,
think a hacker
absolutely.
is. And it's just not. Like, that's so I'd say like what surprised me the most was that it's the exact same as every other crime. Like, it's victim psychology and criminal psychology, and using those two pieces to figure out how they meet for that criminal element. And it's the same in cybercrime. It's the same motivations. We always assume that hacking is like this super complicated thing. It's like, no, they want money. They want to prank. They love like hacktivists, like they love political motivations. Like, it's all the exact same reasons we have every other crime. So I'd say the thing that is missed the most is how normal it is and not unique.
And how has that kind of influenced your focus as a vendor, kind of moving from that space of working on directly on criminal cases to the vendor in kind of commercial space?
Yeah, it's funny. When I started, I think I was like assuming I had to be more technical than I was. And I was like, we got to fix all the vulnerabilities and the CVEs and the whatever. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, yeah, you guys don't need to be worried on that. You haven't changed your passwords in 10 years. Like, let's start simple. Like, it's funny. I am probably one of the few security vendors that like advocates for less tools. And even I was on an Ask Me Anything the other day, and afterward I realized that I had only mentioned my company once. And I think that just comes from me not being a typical CEO. I'm not a sales focused person, but like I just want to teach people and I just want to like get this information out because it is so simple and it's so people just get so overwhelmed by it, and I just want to break that idea down. So that's really what I preach a lot about. Is I'll be on a panel with super genius technical experts and they'll be talking about things, and then it gets to me and I'm like, yeah, but also like stop giving everyone access to your Google Drive. Like that's silly. Like, so I think that's where I've really found my niche, is in being that non-technical person who's telling you real world, this is where to start, baby steps. That's what I love to do.
And you must have had a moment where you decided, okay, this is my path. This is what I want to do. I want to found or be the CEO of my new business. Was that kind of move towards being a little bit more simplistic when it comes to cybersecurity, or making it more accessible to a wider audience, one of the kind of core factors for you making that decision to enter that space?
You know, when my co-founder, he was a penetration tester, so he was an ethical hacker and just a genius at what he did, and he had built this cool tool that everyone was using, and I saw it and I was like, hey, like this could be so many other things, like why don't we like pump this out? And so it really just started as kind of me helping him on the side and us kind of playing with this thing, and then we got funding within 6 months and it just became this much bigger thing, and we've pivoted probably 10 times, and just as the industry does. And so I'd say it wasn't a conscious, I'm going to move into cybercrime for this reason. It was following the need and following the problem. People always, my least favorite question, but I don't think it's on your list, is like, where will you be in 3 to 5 years? And if I could tell you that, then we wouldn't be where we are. You know, like if I could tell you where the industry is going to be in 3 years, no idea. I know I'm going to be like riding the wave of whatever that is, but yeah, I just think we have to be more agile, and that's really what got me here, is just kind of rolling with where that need was.
Yeah, I mean, in this industry where it moves so fast and the transformation everywhere, it's hard to say where we'll be in a couple of weeks, let alone 3 to 5 years. So I completely understand that. When you're looking at your career to date, is there anything that stands out as, one of the biggest influences on your career, or anybody that you've met kind of along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, teaching has probably been the thing that's motivated me the most. Every time I fall away from teaching and I get more into admin mode, I find myself less fulfilled. And then when I get back to my core of just whether it's my team or other people, like that's just what fills me my cup, and that's what drives us forward a lot. So getting back to that. And for person, I would say probably my business coach. I am such an advocate for business coaches, and when you find that right person, like he is so opposite of me and he knows nothing about cybersecurity, and but he just challenges me in a way that a lot of leaders don't get challenged. When you get to a certain level, there's no one to really just check you and bounce ideas and, hey, why are you doing that? Like, that's silly. Um, so I'd say my business coach, absolutely. His name is Matt Wilson, and he's changed everything about my leadership.
And in an industry that's always looking forward, I can imagine sometimes it's hard to to actually process some of the achievements that you've had along the way too. But I was wondering, what is your kind of proudest achievement so far? Is it Red Sentry? Is it something beforehand? Is it something unrelated? I'd be keen to kind of hear.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not someone that takes a lot of time to stop and appreciate the achievements, and it's something my business coach and I work on. Um, this company has grown so much over the last few years, and I think what I'm proud of is how much we've pivoted. And I spent a few years kind of apologizing every time we would change the roadmap, like apologizing when we had to change the goals for the quarter. And like, I wanted it to be this structured thing. And now I'm proud when we change the roadmap. Like, that's because of this thing, and it's for a reason, and it's a good thing. So that's something I'm trying to get across to my team. I'd say my proudest moment was probably when I did a TEDx last year? Because my TEDx was the first time I had spoken publicly about being neurodivergent, and it was completely different than cybersecurity, and it opened my eyes to all of my actual clients, because so many people in cybersecurity are neurodivergent. And it was this weird like shift where now I just understood my team better and my clients better and my peers better. So I'd say the TEDx was really like an eye-opening moment that changed how I approach leadership and cybersecurity and everything.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear, and I think leads us on quite nicely into the next section of our podcast, which is the people. It's talent, it's community and industry. I know that Harry's got some fantastic questions he'd love to ask you, so I'll hand over.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do a whole podcast on each of these sections, to be honest with you. So thank you so much for your answers so far, Valentina. I think you've spoken in the past and a little bit there about the importance of diversity beyond gender and race, including diversity of background, experience, age, and thinking styles. Why do you think that's so important in cybersecurity? I'm sure you can apply it to everything, but specifically for cybersecurity, would you say?
Yeah, well, when I was with Atlanta Police Department, it's one of the more diverse police departments across the whole country. And so when I went into the private sector, I was like a little shocked by the lack of diversity, because I had just been in that zone for so long, for gender and race. And it's 100% an issue in cybersecurity. There are so few females in hacking specifically. And when you get to like leadership, like technical leadership, I mean, it's just so rare. Only about 2% of venture capital funding goes to women leaders. And to be honest, like I had a co-founder who was a male, and that, might have been part of why I got funding. And so, as I came into it, it was never my goal to like start this diversity movement in tech, but I just hire people who are the best at the job. And I think I'm able to dissociate a little, like a step back. And I don't look at resumes. I think they're completely made up. Um, I think nowadays it's a chat GBT resume talking to a chat GBT resume looker. And so, for example, on our hacking team, we someone goes through a challenge before we ever get their resume. So they have to go through a challenge to show their skill set before we even know anything about this person. And it's just such a better way to find cool people that work. And I think culture fit has become this thing where, and I don't even remember your original question, so maybe I'm answering it. But I think this
You are.
idea of culture fit has become where HR is hiring people that like play nice in meetings and get along. And to me, culture fit on my team is being curious, like challenging, being able to change your opinion, like being agile. Um, there's a couple people on my team where when we have conversations, people sometimes like think we're fighting, and at the end we're like, "Oh, cool, love it." Like good. And we've had to like tell people on our team like, "Hey, we're not fighting. This is how we talk." And so one of the things I do when I first bring someone on is I try to learn their brain. And like, how do you think? How do you like to learn? And even onboarding, like, I hated making an onboarding plan formal because I was like, well, yeah, but every person onboards differently. Like, some people want a deep dive, some people want a shadow, some people want independence. So that's always been a struggle for me in terms of building a culture where everyone grows in their like best capacity, but then also having this standardization that is required in business. I'd say that's one of my hardest things, but I don't remember your question, but maybe that answered it.
No, you answered it, and I think the point you've made on like diversity of thought and agility, and even the things you spoke about earlier around the roadmap changing. You need people who are, excited by a little bit of change and a little bit of chaos and are open to challenging each other and being curious. It's really soft skills driven, and I think it's a great way to approach hiring in an industry that is sometimes a little bit over obsessed by a specific type of experience. We
You asked about
totally can totally come
cybersecurity.
from.
You asked about cybersecurity specifically, which there's a couple things in cybersecurity that drive me crazy when it comes to diversity. Number one, hackers are so diverse. Like, you have to be diverse to think like a hacker. Like, you have to have different perspectives. And the people that hackers are using as victims are completely different people. Sometimes they're breaking into technologies, sometimes they're breaking into HR, they're breaking into CEOs. So you have to have those different perspectives to be able to have that holistic attacker perspective. So I think that's like super, super important. And what's more important to me is curiosity. Like, if you call your parent and say, hey, did I get into everything as a child? And if the answer is yes, then like you'd probably be a good hacker, you know? Like, you just break things. Like, you just have to be curious. You have to pull threads. When you get into a car, if there's a button with no label, like, do you push it? And if you push it, you're probably a hacker. You know, that's kind of more what that means for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really interesting, and I think going back to that point uh, on on attracting people from different backgrounds, do you think the cybersecurity industry does enough there? I mean, I can guess what your answer probably is going to be. So probably the follow on from that is, what do you think the industry can do better to attract people from different backgrounds?
I think it's going in a good direction. There's a lot of groups that are kind of promoting, a lot of mentoring going on. What I'd love to see more of is people talking publicly about their backgrounds. So for years, I did not talk about my background as a cop. I didn't even mention it because I was like, oh, well, I'm alongside all these MBAs. No one's going to take me seriously because I was a cop for 10 years. And as soon as I started talking about it, I think someone figured it out and asked me about it or something. I got so much more credibility, and like, the conversations just became so much better. So I'd love to see more people owning the weird things in their background. Not weird, but sometimes.
Different.
Like, I was born and raised on a traveling carnival, and that's something I only started telling about 6 months ago. So fresh on this podcast, only a couple people have heard it. And it's because it felt so irrelevant, but it's part of what gives me a unique social perspective and why I can talk to very different people and understand pain points. And so when I talk to someone like on a podcast or something like that, like, I love to know that like weird hyperfixation they have. I love to know, like, what is the random industry that you worked before what's on your resume? What's that thing before the bottom line experience on your resume that is what kind of like launched you? And I think that's makes for such better things. We were on a call the other day with my team, and I made everyone choose something in their lives that's not professional that gives them a skill set that they use at work. And so like some of the guys chose like gaming, like video games, and having to get to the end and like trying different routes. And someone chose that they were on marching band, and that gave them kind of like that consistent teamwork. So yeah, I just think it's cool to learn how we all get these unique skills.
Yeah, I've got a family member that she does ballet, she sings in the choir, she also works in a hospital, and she does gardening, and she also does like athletics and all these things, and it's given her such a holistic view of people that she's able to really approach and have a conversation with anyone, which is it's super inspirational, and it's a great way to understand your team as well and manage in an appropriate way. So
And I
I
guarantee
totally
every single person we talk to on a sales call has something
yeah
like that that they wish they could like talk about more, and they just don't
yeah.
because it's like this professional sales call. And it's like the more we all open up, the more it's, yeah, it's just normalized. And it, I don't know. So that's what I would like, is for all the weirdos to come out, talk about that, talk about your different perspectives, talk about your background, and that just normalizes it more and more. And then people are able to see that represented. So even like people of color in hacking, it's so rare, and there are communities that are trying to build it, but we don't see them as much on podcasts and things like that. So like we need to just push that diversity of thought and diversity of background and everything on these public channels.
Yeah, very cool. I've got lots of questions I could have asked there, but we do also need to come on to our topic that matters. I'm sure we could definitely do some
We'll
form
do
of
a part
roundtable
two.
on talent and hiring. It'd be brilliant. Honestly, it's fantastic hearing you talking about that. Um, Topic that matters. It's a little bit about hacking, risk, Red Sentry. We'd love to learn a little bit more about what you guys do. So I think starting there, um, for people that aren't familiar with Red Sentry, what do you guys do, and what's the problem you're solving for customers today?
So we are a team of ethical hackers. And what that means is we get paid to break into companies before the bad guys do. Show where all the vulnerabilities are so that you can patch them before they're taken advantage of. It's kind of like scrimmaging, like on, like if you're into, you know, football or something. Like if you make these offensive or these defensive plays, like you need someone to test them. Like that's kind of where we come in. And it has to be a third party because you don't know what you don't know. Like people, if you lock up every door in your house, what we come and do is we are going to check the front door, but then we're also going to see if we can sneak in the chimney. We're going to see if we can loosen up the bolts around the window and get in that way. Things you don't think of. So that's what we do. And we work a lot through partnerships. And a lot of people that come to us right now are going through some kind of compliance. So, for example, SOC 2, PCI, ISO 27001, HIPAA, any of those compliance frameworks usually have some boxes that we are going to check. So that's usually when people come to us or after they get hacked. I'd love to see a world in the future where people are doing this more proactively, but right now it's normally because someone told them they had to, and that's when we
Mm.
start.
Do you think I mean, you've spoken a lot about the importance of thinking like a hacker. We've spoken about it already today. Why do you feel more organizations need to adopt that mindset? What kind of benefits do you think that organizations can get by thinking in that kind of way?
Well, I don't think everyone in an organization is going to be able to think that way. I think that is why you kind of need a third party. I think the defensive teams and like the people that are building the technology should be thinking like hackers. They should be on the dark web. They should be looking in these channels to see new ways that are coming out. But it's it's just more holistic. Like if I was going to break into my company right now, how would I do it? And I'm not going to tell you the answer, but I think about that all the time. And there's just so many different ways, and sometimes we focus on the easiest vulnerability to fix and not the most important. And it's easy to fix technology, especially if you're a SaaS company or a tech company. It's easy to make changes and update software. It's not easy to create a culture of security across your entire team and your people. So that's what gets put on the back burner. And it's how everyone's getting in still. So I'd say that's kind of my frustration right now, and getting more companies to be excited to train their humans and, you know, get everyone thinking about security, not just the tech team.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think so many companies, like you mentioned, that you're not an advocate for more security tools. I mean, you go to any of the main conferences like RSA and Black Hat, and it's all, security tool central, right? What do you think? I mean, why do you think companies focus on tools before understanding risk necessarily?
I think it's an easy checkbox to feel. It's like a dopamine hit of like, we solved this problem because someone else has solved it. And there's so many incredible tools out there. And, we have a platform that I love and we've built so intentionally and it's incredible. But if you're not ready for adoption, I feel like it's just kind of useless. Like, that's something my team struggled with a lot early on, is we were so, like, we tried all these tools and then a month later, if you look, who's actually using it. So that's my biggest thing now, is like, we are not adopting a tool unless there is a very clear adoption plan and buy-in from the team. Like, it makes no sense for me to just pick a tool and send it down the chain and then everyone's gonna grumble and not use it. And that goes back to kind of knowing your team and knowing how they work. And so as far as security tools, I mean, there's 1,000 of them. And if you implemented 1,000 vuln scans, you would get all the vulnerabilities that are ever possible. And you'd probably have a list of a few hundred. And like, then what? What do you do with that list? I think the more automated we've gone in security, it's good. Like, those tools are great, but it's taken out that human element, and now there's no one to take it and say priority or to say impact or like, this is where we need to focus first. So that's what my company does, is we don't just look at the vulnerability. We say, hey, for your specific company, this is the first thing you need to fix. It's the highest risk, and it's what's going to take your company specifically down the worst. Then next, do this one. Next, do this one. And so it's just kind of breaking it up like that, because we all know, I mean, we just get alert fatigue, we get email fatigue, we get tool fatigue. And yeah, we add on tools to fix the tool fatigue. And I'm exhausted with tools. So yeah.
How do you help customers actually separate the noise from real risk? Is it like a walkthrough process? Is it like a consultation? Is it like a demo? How do you guys actually practically do that?
Yeah. So, the general thing we do is, it's called a penetration test, and it's a test into, it could be a specific part of their environment. It could be just their web application. And we don't look at all the scans they have done in the past. We can, but we just kind of go in fresh and be like, hey, if we were hackers, these are the 10 ways we would get in first. This is the way to fix it. And we also do what's called tabletops. I love tabletop exercises, and I wish more companies would do them. And it's so simple. It's sitting around a table. You don't even have to hire someone to do it. Everyone goes sit around a table with all your team leads and say, ransomware hit us today. What would we do? And if there's not a clear answer for that, like, start filling in those gaps. And that response plan saves so much time and money and things when hacks happen. Like, none of us are unhackable. You're going to get hacked. You probably already have been hacked and you don't know it. So that response planning is super, super important. So I think that's another angle that helps companies a lot. But yeah, you need a consultant. You need someone on the outside, and you shouldn't know you can't be an expert in everything. And that's where in tech, get a little bit ego sometimes on, oh, my system's perfect, and it's not supposed to be
Yeah.
perfect.
But I can see why with the particular part of the security industry you work in, especially why the non-traditional approach and the diversity of thought is really important, because you can uncover and think about problems in different ways, right? And find novel solutions. So yeah, no, I can see that it comes back to that as well. Final penultimate question, final one of this section. What does a strong security culture actually look like in practice? You spoke about it a couple of times.
I think it looks like building that conversation into every other department conversation you're having. Security shouldn't be a siloed thing that you talk about once a year, whether it's your budget meeting, whether it's your roadmap meeting, your sales meeting, security has to be a part of all of those conversations. And you have to be willing to be vulnerable. When we did our first tabletop and there were all the vulnerabilities, like my natural instinct was like to be defensive. And, I had to check myself and like, okay, where are we starting? How do we do this? So I think it's just having those conversations more and more, and it becomes more habit. Yeah, and it's everyone's responsibility. Like, I think a lot of people, we try to teach them through slides about security awareness, and they're clicking through all the little slides. Or we're like, no matter what, don't use any AI tool, and if you do, you're in trouble. Okay, well, they're going to go use it. And so for me, what's important about a security culture is coming to your team and like how they're actually using things. Like, instead of creating an AI policy down, like, that's fine. But like, I want to go ask every person on my team, hey, like, transparency, you're not in trouble. Like, what are all the different tools you're using? Let me just see them so I can know how to start making this as safe as possible. So it's not going from 0 to 100 or idealistic, zero trust. It's like, start where you are, know where you are, and be honest about that. And just, what's the next thing you want to focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great advice, and it's good insight into security culture as a whole, and what it could be. Final question. I'm really excited to hear the answer to this. No pressure. What's the one bit of advice you would give to someone entering the cybersecurity? It doesn't have to be one. You can give a couple bits of advice, but what's your advice you give to someone entering the security industry today?
Someone entering the industry, it is don't try to put yourself in a box of what you think that role is. I think there's a lot of really incredible technologists who now are being put in client conversations, or we're opening up this more holistic approach, and we're finding a divide where you either have people on your team who love humans or hate humans. And it's like, well, we kind of need both here. But I think a lot of that's because we haven't given people the freedom to be themselves in calls, and they feel like they have to be this salesperson. And so I would say challenge yourself to be a part of all those different departments as well, because that's going to make your cybersecurity career much stronger, and it's going to make you better at your job to understand all those different things. So be uncomfortable and, go out and see all the different sides, look at sales calls, ask if you can watch some recordings. I think it makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic advice. Valentina, thank you very much for joining us. Pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Bye.